well, welcome to getting into a restorative mode. To accomplish that, we're going to use a lot of props. So I want you to have a bolster that's a standard size and it's horizontal across your mat. You are near a wall, and you'll also have your block, so it's flat in front of at the lowest setting in front of your bolster, and a couple blankets at the back, sandbag, ball, another block. And then what's important right now is you have a belt that's buckled up. So what I have is I'm going to sit on the block in front of my bolster, and I'm going to slide a connected, buckled up small loop of the belt over my lower legs up into as high as I can bring the belt on my thighs. I don't want to sit on the belt, but I want the belt to actually reinforce the length from my lower back to my hip. Let's just do it, and then we'll feel if we have that happening. So you're going to move down to your back so that the back of the pelvis, the tailbone is on the block. That's a good access point for how we work into this. If the wall is too close for you, just scoot back. But when you reach the legs down, if you're fortunate to have a wall nearby, just feel what it's like to touch to the wall. You can always come back to it once we get our sand on and our brain back onto the blankets. So I like right now, actually, the 2 blanket stack feels good for my neck, but I think it's going to change with time. Let's hope. Okay, take a bag of weight, sand or anything else that you use for weight, and lift it so it's going to be on the thigh lids, okay? So most of us, when we use our arms, right, they're bending, they're pulling towards the heart. So when you straighten out the legs, whether you have to keep some of us may need to keep them bent in the beginning to release the back. But if you can start to lower down the feet and extend, even if it's a mild bend of the knees, this is the benefit of the wall, is you can keep a micro bend of the knees and still feel that kind of reinforced support into the legs. Just give it a try. The belt is simply going to be helping you create some symmetry in the hips. Move the sand right away to the thigh lids, upper leg bones, and feel how the motion of the legs, especially if you're elongating them, just kind of feel how that works its way into the pelvis. And I really encourage you to let the natural arch happen in the back in the pelvis. So if you feel like you need to scoop the tail under and keep things straight, use the natural arch. See what happens. Stretch the chest open. If you feel like you're missing some weight here on the ribs, just use the moment to express the circulation with the arms on the ground and the shoulders back and the width in the chest, and closing your eyes. If you happen to have an eye pillow, you might add that to that space of looking so that you can turn the focus inwards and just simply gather your attention on the even rhythm of your breath. And making any adjustments, right? Anything that doesn't feel quite supported. Maybe you need to kind of use your elbows or your upper arm bones to push the bolster a little bit down. It's nice to truly experience the support of your props, because they're always there to use, but this might be the time you actually use them. So feeling the movement of the ribs with your breath. The movement of the abdominals. Feel the breath moving in through your nose and relaxing out. With each exhalation, feeling that centering is is shifting inwards, right? So each exhale, once you're settled into the shape, gives you permission to be present. And just setting an intention for this practice today to receive wellness. So when you do have that feel of the arch in the back, I can understand how you might bend the knees and just see what that brings to you, or feel what that brings to you in your hips. So of course, if the legs are extended down, it's a little more exciting in the spine, right? There's a little bit more work going on. If I walk the feet in, it seems like, oh, this is extremely safe, I'm good. Got the weight bearing of the sandbag, and there's a little arch, but not too much. So you want to find somewhere in between that you can do some challenging with your breathing, right? Because if the legs are farther down, right, it does pull the breath a bit. And you want to kind of get more of that movement in the body, more spaciousness. So let's slide the sand. Actually, you could either move it off, or you could bring it up to the ribs, either one. Unbuckle, okay? And then bring the feet up into cobbler's pose, the knees out, so the feet just slide up so they're still on the ground. It's still floor-based, okay? And as the knees move out, there's nothing under them, right? You don't get the support of the blocks on this one, so it can radiate more extensively in the groins. And that's what we want. We want to stimulate that flow of lymph. This is great stuff for the circulatory, the lymphatic, then the immune system. That's what we understand the most on that one. But when you do feel the feet push, feel that natural arch through the spine. Feel the waist stretching. And it doesn't stretch too much. It's actually pretty controlled, especially the front zone at the lower abdominals. It's a controlled, basic awareness. It's not pulling, pushing, crunching. It's just stretching it out. So give that a few more moments with the feet connected. At this point, I wouldn't try to push more charge into the legs. Just let gravity have you. That's the best thing you can do in your yoga practice, unless you're doing half moon pose or something. Okay. So feeling when the feet have that connectivity to each other, that conduit of energy through the groins, is very obvious here. So let's continue that for a moment here. You're going to let the bottom of the left foot step down, and then lift the right foot up, cross the right ankle to the left knee, and let that right knee just it's kind of lackadaisical. It just relaxes out to that side a little bit. And just give a few breaths here with feeling how the spine and the lower back area, the low back muscles, resolve this one. And then switch sides. Right foot steps the bottom of it down. Left foot crosses the ankle, just the ankle on the knee, not the knee on the knee, not knee over knee. And feeling where it's probably a little different from side to side at the back of the pelvis, how much it moves out. Okay, just notice that. Okay, this is you get one more chance to kind of compare. So change the side, maybe close your eyes, and you'll know you're going to bring the right ankle to the left knee, and then just feel what happens in the low back to the hip. Likely one side has they're different probably with how you can contain the energy in the pelvis. And now really let the back of the pelvis just relax, and use the change to the next side so that you feel the tailbone resting down, switch left ankle to right knee, and then feeling how the spine adapts. Hopefully you found a little bit more equilibrium on the second pattern of those, especially since you didn't know what we were going into it. Okay. All right. Now uncross and slide the sand off. Get a ball nearby or a block, whichever you're going to use. And we'll reach for the bolster. If you have little handles on the bolster, just let the thumbs hook there. If that hurts your hand, you're going to be pushing the bolster down, but be on the tippy toes, heels up. And then now that your weight moves back in the neck, slide one blanket back if you haven't already, and bring the weight back to stretch the neck gently and push the bolster down a little bit at a time. First things first, I lift up my feet and see if that's the right amount of weight of my pelvis. I went too far down. You don't need to go very far on this one, okay? You want really all your lumbars to be there, and it spreads the ribs horizontally. So when I lift up the legs, go ahead and just let the leg kick up. And you still got the bolster under you, right? You're not changing anything with that. Have that elevation. And just feel how the breath maybe changes from a little higher up in the ribs. It may not for some of us, but feel if you can move the lower abdominals. Right? They'll engage different than the upper, but feeling that there's an opportunity to lift up in the belly, especially when you're on your back, strengthening the breathing muscles on our back. Take the ball, place it between the knees, and the legs can start to bend. I would just kind of feel when you put a spacer between the knees, whether it's a block, you could use a block in its most narrow setting, or you can use a ball. Probably not a tennis ball, right? It needs to be like at least a 5 to 7 inch ball. That's kind of what these are called. This one is, I think, not quite 7, but it depends on how pumped up it is, right? So as you bend the knees, feeling how the back of the pelvis kind of completes. And then as I bend the knees, I'll stretch the arms open, move anything out to the side that's in your way, and let the knees go side to side. And think of it as the knees, like a uni knee, right? It's connected at the ball. And if the ball doesn't seem like it's in the right spot, just keep it there and see what happens. If you can be with something that's not perfect, maybe the ball doesn't matter as much as you just have something between the knees. And when the waist centers, I try to keep the shoulders both down. That's key. The back, the upper back is centered. The only thing that kind of squiggles around, rib squiggling, is the ribs. They're going to motion, and they're going to go from the impact of the movement of the uni knees and that movement of the spine. Give it a little bit more time. The arms are relaxed out. Brain is centered, maybe eyes closed. So if you can wander in your practice, not necessarily about, how many poses, but these pathways we move internally through. That you've got some kind of mass movement in the pelvis, right? We're going to go one leg at a time, okay? How are we going to do that with this ball thing? So find your belt. Might be below your bolster. It might be to the side of you. At least it's a long thread that you can find. And then take a moment when you put the ball aside. Let's not get too oriented with that yet. And we'll slide the belt under our right foot, and the legs are going back and forth, side to side. So I'm going to make sure my blanket's just under my brain, not under my shoulders at all. So this upper back stays pretty imprinted, especially the spine on this upper side. Hold the belt with both hands. Let the left leg release straight down. Okay, I like this block that happens to be there. I think that's kind of cool, but it might not work for you. You might just be bothered by a block. You can nudge it aside. And When you hold onto the belt, just let the legs circle. Just feel it rotate, connecting to the hip. Just let it circle. We don't have to analyze what exactly is doing. Okay. But when you rotate, I kind of feel, does it go from the sitting bone? What's going on with the knee? Does it feel safe? It's not getting too much yanking around it. No knee yanking. Okay, so feel how you gather movement. You kind of it starts gathering around, right? It threads around in the back of the leg that creates heat. That's the key here, is heat in the leg, motion, warming. And let that right leg, it's going to start going towards the left. Just observe it. Observe when you have both hands holding the belt. Now, my hands don't have to be close to my foot. I don't think that's wise, but I think it's important here, and you're going to figure out what's wise for you. You wise posers. Okay, but feel what happens when the left hand just takes over, and if it's tiring on your thumb or your, into the hand, I would just lower the elbow to the floor first. Then you're going to pull a bit and let that right heel flex the foot. Right arm is open, head rolls to the right. You're just feeling that movement through the neck. Feel the crossover in that right hip. The knee might need to bend, and you might have some areas in the hip that feel a little bit, I don't want to say clogged, but are sort of a little bit stuck. So I would be cautious here about overdoing it. Just find what is, maybe even your elbows on your bolster, so you don't overdo it. Maybe you're going to underdo it and have the leg a little bit higher. Okay. But when you bring the leg back up, you've got to find that you're using your lower back muscles to bring it back into center. Okay, hold on to the belt, both hands, circle the leg so it's basically straight up. So circulation, feeling where there's movement at the lower back and at the hip. Then bring the left foot up into the situation and just change sides. Right leg straight down, hold on to the belt. I know it's a different leg, but at least I think it is. But the lower back is you're continuing on that process of warming up in the back. So you just added another side. And I wonder if your back, notices more on the left side of the back. Who knows? It's all different here. So go both directions. I think I forgot that last side. Probably a wise choice. Go both directions of the leg. It probably does during the day more than you think. And then as you start to move the left foot over, the left leg actually, to the right side, start with two hands. And then when you hold on with the right hand, the left arm opens out on the ground. And probably closing eyes can be really helpful for these. So you can tune internally into the sensation of, clearly the high point is what's at the top of the leg. But for some of us, we know we're not supposed to overdo it. So you might have to go, okay, I'm going to bend the knee a little bit more, put my elbow on the bolster, and just get some good blood flow. It's not necessarily about let's get more flexible. In fact, I'm kind of done with that idea. It's about improving the circulation to the joint, to the muscles. It's about blood flow, hemodynamics, lymphatic drain, circulation back to the heart, to the lungs, to the brain. That's a good practice. And we happen to have all these body parts to work on to bring the circulation back, getting upside down. So, feel if your hip actually moves on its own. And are you able to, recruit into the pelvis and the hip, or is it the leg doing all the work? And you might find as we navigate this, we're going to bend the left knee, get both hands involved to help you out, and take caution, go slow. There's no reason to whip the leg back up into center. Just take it slow so there's resistance in the leg. We'll call this our reclining warrior if we bend the knee. Okay, so pull firm. Take both legs now up. Right foot comes up, both feet push out. And then as you push out into a wide stance, simply hold. And giving those legs that opportunity to support the lymphatic drain, right? If they're upside down, what better thing to do to reverse that flow in the groins? The armpits are attentive here because you're pulling with the arm, so there's some action taken in the muscles. Just maybe let the eyes center for a few more cycles. You're feeling the breath in the front lower torso area. As you slide the feet, find what works for you. Is it a straight leg variation? Is it more bending the knees a bit more, a little micro bend? And then as you bring the knees in towards the chest, we'll shift. And this sometimes feels good to be in this mild inversion for my knees. Fluid retention drains out. I love it. But let's get ourselves across the bolster. So I want you to keep your belt nearby. And you're going to roll to the left or right, doesn't matter to me, but you're going to come across the bolster and down in front. And let's push our bolster a little bit back so you're close to sitting on the ground in front of your bolster. And let's take let's use a blocker ball between the knees. Okay. So squeeze and release. I think the ball is better because it's responsive surface. Squeeze. You can put your elbows on your bolster. This makes it kind of easy peasy. The top of the thighs are going to start to go. Okay. We're part of the situation again. Okay. So feel when you alternate squeezing and releasing that pressure. See if you can bring the knees towards each other. Hopefully this is comfortable in your knee joint. I think this is pretty good work because it really activates the hip, strengthening, supporting the knee. So take this feel a few more moments of breathing, squeezing and breathing. Okay, now as you may monitor that squeezing in, the abdominals might kind of be opposite because it's like a lot to do, right? So feel the natural arch of the spine, like you're trying to lift the heart here. And squeeze and stretch your arms besides the knees. So your elbows are off the bolster if they were on the bolster at all. Relax the squeeze of the ball. See what happens there. Your feet might kind of shift a little bit to the side bones of the feet. See if you can really keep the whole bottom of the foot as much as you could, whole foot. Squeeze the ball and release. Okay. Hold the backs of the legs closer to the back of the knee. Pull yourself upright so you're sitting as well as you could, sitting bones and all, and squeeze and release. And squeeze the ball or the block. I suppose you can still activate somehow. You want to find a block that's really squishy. Okay, now last one, when you squeeze into the ball, okay, lift the heart, try to work with this abdominal heart thread of lifting, breathing, and relax the grip. Okay, move the ball over to the left, and you're going to lean back on the bolster with your elbows and step the feet out a little bit in from the mat width and let the knees shift side to side. Caution on knees, right? I don't want your feet to be too close together, but neither stretching out too far. So feeling that movement across the glutes, massaging into the glutes. Okay, we're really going to get into those in a little bit. So feel the movement of the knee. So I'm going to encourage you to have a block over on this left side too. But when you lean to the left for side sage, caution on this right knee. Some of you might have no knee, that you don't grumble about it for, it seems like some of us do, but many of us still need to be cautious, right? Even though you don't have something going on now, right? Caution. So if your knee touches down, see, it's still that this hip, just the drop of angle and the lateral rotators is just to be caution here because it still torques the knee in. So I would recommend put something on the inside unless your foot is touching the knee, like you're holding your knee on your foot. Okay. And some of you still will find, I don't want to change. So that's okay. Just offering you that thought. Okay, couple blankets on the other side. Stack them up, you'll need them. You'll need a stack. And then lo and behold, I've got to pull my sandbag across. Okay, so you're going to lean into your props. If you're wondering, what is she up to here? We got a bolster across the mat. We got a block on the other side and a blanket stack under my head. And then all I'm going to do is take my sandbag, okay, and take that across my hip or on my waist. Personal choice. Okay, you won't know likely at the beginning, even if you are one that knows it all with your poses. You know, and sometimes right now it feels for me I have too much pressure on my left hip. So I'm going to try to guide my ribs so there's more arch. So even though I'm on my side, you can really enjoy the arching of your back when you're on your side, probably even more so than when you're on your back. Okay, so come into the shape gradually with maybe the right arm overhead, maybe touching the block. Maybe this block feels too low. If it's too low and it's at the highest setting, you'll probably need to move it towards one side, the side that's not going to harm the shoulder. So maybe over to the right side, or it's the hand is on the bolster, or it's on the side of you. Okay. So there's many places to bring attention to. You can move your props around. You don't have to have them perfectly crossed on the mat. So if you move your blankets, because it feels like the natural neck arch is helped supporting. But come into the side position now so that you can settle and breathe slow. Really rest the brain. Feel the weight of the head, probably more to let go of. And once the neck can relax here, you can decide where you want that right arm. If it's not overhead, it's okay. You work with the health of the movement of the ribs with your breath. So now that I have my arm on my side as well as my sand, I feel like I have a pretty good amount of pressure into my breathing muscles. So there's kind of two worlds going on in some ways. There's the muscular, there's what you see, right? You can visibly see the pose shape. But then internally, the breathing has that resistance, right? Because of my sandbag and my arm position. And for some of us, having the arm overhead is just, it just feels more postular. Something about it has more stuff going on in the shoulder. Okay, but feel the weight of your head. See if this keeps happening, right? You might find, oh, I did let my head go, and then I was listening too much, or my, you know, even just hearing, you might lift your head a little bit. We'll try to be quiet so you don't lift your head. Okay, so now when we switch sides, you're going to shift your sand off of the side. It can go right because that's the direction we'll need it next time. And we'll take a couple motions for the spinal kind of reach, which is cat-cow. So feel where the chest is open and then feel when you rotate. This feels like more open chest than when I have my hands on the ground. But you'll find out it's good to have both actions so that when you do open the chest, you have something to stretch, right? If you didn't have tone, it wouldn't feel like you were stretching anything. So it's nice to have a little tone. Now I'm going to use a blanket because it's just better padding, and I may feel like I don't need it, but I'm just going to use it because more comfort is good. So blanket underneath is an option. Hands under the shoulder line. It could be a little forward, a little bit out. Completely up to you. Okay, make sure there's no blanket under your hands, and probably over the hand isn't going to hurt you. But toes are under, so stretching through the bottoms of the feet. Yeah, see if you can work on that for a moment. And then articulate the movement of the spine with the stretch of the chest both directions. So inhale, arch the spine, chest forward. Exhale, round the spine, chin to the chest. Inhale, arch. And exhale, spine. So the threading of movement is also with the breathing. Maybe closing your eyes and feeling that weave of the chest going forward and center, and the movement of the spine, spreading out the blades, chin towards chest. Okay, now the next time you find that arch, you're going to maintain that arch of the feet, toes under. You don't have to come back to down dog, but an option. Lift up the knees and pedal out your dogs here. So alternate bending the knees and feeling, even if the hips swish a little side to side, feel the bones and the pressure of, it's quite a bit on arms for this one because our legs are getting that essential length. But have some caution here with how the position presses into our knee joint. I know you might not think it does much, but how it works its way into the knee is interesting. So really work on the lift of the hips, like you're lifting your sitting bones to the sky. The heels could be up, that's fine. In fact, if I try to smash my heels down, it's not a great friction in my knee. So I'm trying to get a little lift and also stretch them back. Once I've exhausted this one, let's walk the feet as close to towards the blanket or the bolster as you can, and walk the hands back and come into a standing forward bend with as little pressure on your hands as possible. So if my hands are pushing my bolster, I'm going to relax them down. Okay, I can hold my elbows, I can hold the backs of my legs, but why hold anything if I can just let my wrists relax? Okay, even if the palms are open on the bolster or downwards to your feet, let the wrists relax, let the brain lower down. Great to work on, right, if you're clear in your sinuses. If you're not, this is not a great thing for congestion, but it's good if you're not. It's a good, definitely a lymphatic drain. Sounds like it, doesn't it? And then as the spine is lengthening, let your head nod from side to side. You feel if your neck has movement here. You can kind of try to almost circle it. Interesting. And then maybe just stillness. Okay, now feeling where that impact is on the legs, right? The feet, the weight down into them. So when we start to travel back to hands and knees, feel how would you want to do that? Sometimes we're so basic about, okay, push my hands forward, down. But, kind of feel the spacing of the feet, the knees apart, the hips reaching back, the ribs. And then as the arms kind of reach out of the rib spaces, you're going to walk the hands forward. Some of us, it's awkward, right? We have to kind of push and then walk our feet back. So find a way of movement into a crawl position so the knees are down and the hands are on the floor, and take cat-cow for just a few moments. Chin to chest, rounding, arching, chin forward from chest. Okay, the arms might feel like they squeeze in. I find this when I move into the arch, my arms squeeze a little towards each other. Okay, that's a good thing, right? When you flex, the arms move a little bit apart. Okay, good. Nice. So let's get to side stage on the other side. So you leave your block over on the other side of the blanket. And probably if your blankets are not stacked now, put them back together. And now easy does it here. Back to the other side, hip down, left leg back, ball or no ball, you are the decider. Okay. And, feel that the reach of the leg is going to correspond with the movement in my spine. All right, I want to feel more movement. Probably the lumbars are going to get the most excitement here. But when I lean down into my ribs, then they get squished. Okay. So I like the interaction of using the weight on my ribs. I don't get this during the day. They're kind of just dropping with gravity all day long, pulling it down. So here's an opportunity to work with the tone and the side of the body. Great stuff, side stretches. We're gonna keep on with things. So arm is either overhead or the hand is down. One side is pinchy in the shoulder, it just has some central grip in a spot that's kind of nags you. It's not a great thing to keep pushing that. Not going to improve your life. So if you like the nagginess and the spot, the very site-specific tension, okay, oh well. But maybe less is better here. So arm could be on the side. The key, I think, is to get your head to relax. If you hear something and you kind of lift up a little bit with your neck, I think that's what happens, right? When we try to rest, our neck doesn't let go. So feeling the weight of your hip on the right side. Breathing. Just enjoy the movements of the breath. That could be your meditation. It's intermittent. I know it's not going to be constant, but when in doubt, right? When in doubt, breathe out. Feel if the hip rests as much as the head, right? It might feel like you have familiarity with the hip resting more than it's different in the brain, right? Because it's the sensory organs are there, so that will affect your response. Eyesight, hearing, all those things. Feeling how the front of the torso, right, abdominally, the abdominals that we see, right? We don't really see our side and our posterior core, we see the front. Even if we don't stare at it, we see it, so we know its involvement with breath. So feel its movement and its movement with the side too. So it's kind of a global movement right in your bones. We'll take a few more wide-reaching breaths. Yeah, and enjoy this. You know, when we come up to sitting and pigeon pose and stuff, it's a different kind of hardware with breathing, I think. So focus on when it feels pretty easy to accomplish breathing. You can always slide your sand off if you don't like it, or not use it at all. And now feeling where there's a natural curve in the spine, even with my right knee close to the bolster, but not on it. You know, I feel that it brings me into that lumbar curve, which we want. It's a nice setting for the base of the spine to kind of spring the circulation up into the mid back, the upper back. It's pretty powerful part of the spine. I mean, it's really thick vertebrae. They're very plump. You want them to stay plump. Vertebrae stay plump. So now when you lean right side, okay, we're going to actually move to ribs, side, come up, and then come around to sit in front. Actually, sit on. Let's sit on the bolster and pull the blankets in next to it, and then get your block behind you. Use props for legs here. So let's see what happens. So I've got everything compact here as far as my cushions. My blankets and bolster I'm on. Stretch the right leg out. Okay, get a belt, get a sandbag, and place it on the upper left thigh. Okay, so it's high on the leg. My leg is stretching out. So, you know, your left leg, when it's bending, right, that rotation of the thigh, it's turning outwards here. So I'm going to put a ball under my knee. So, well, actually, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to put a block under the knee because it's a little different definition. Some of you will find that you don't want that. You want your knee on the ground. But just keep in mind that you still can get that circulation. But if I push my knee down, right, you know, if there's things that are pulling, maybe not reasonable. Okay. Then I'm going to actually put a ball under my knee on this side. That's what I'm going to do. Such comfort. Okay. It's okay to be comfortable. You might, again, feel like you need to get a sharp stretch in your leg, but done with that stuff. Just working on good circulation. So, buckle up. Make this as quiet as I can. Okay, make a loop that's tiny. Tiny loop. It should be big enough to put your foot in. Okay. Swing it forward under your right foot. Okay, and then bring the belt to the back of your right leg. Actually, it's the side of your leg. Sorry, the side of your right hip. Stretch the left hand back to get the belt. Okay. And stretch the left arm out and bring the right hand to the left leg. Okay. Probably you're going to feel like you don't have the right amount of intensity on the left arm, but it's okay if you are creating that reach around with the ribs, the upper ribs, which are up here, the turn there. You know, if you need to tilt your neck, turn your head, tilt your head, do all those things. Maybe even touch on to the clavicle area, giving that lift in the chest. Okay, so the right hand hopefully can touch the left leg. But if it's too much with the belt, don't use it. You can let go or loosen up your hold, put your hand down on your blankets, and just lightly pull on the belt. Okay, but see if you can feel the cross fibers in the ribs that are connecting to the spine, to the vertebral column on that left side. I think the belt is helpful because it kind of reinforces that rotation. It's tough to do it without something to hold on to. But if you had a wall behind you or like a chair, you could use that under your hand. That would be excellent. Got to get back to chair stuff. Okay. So feel when you're turning where that right leg is reaching. Yeah, I like this with the ball under the knee. It's quite comfy. Okay, now lift up the heart, as much lift as you can receive. Doesn't hurt. Feel the lift of the heart. Okay, it's a nice chest movement. And then you're going to keep that lift and reach the right hand to the belt that's above the right leg or to the side of it, and hold onto the belt with your right hand, bend the elbow. Left hand can let go of the belt. And I just let my left hand, the front of the hand, rest onto my back. That feels good to me. But then I'm going to turn my head to the right leg and lean in and feel that it's kind of an infinite stretch here in my torso to the side, the QL here to the lower back waistline. Okay. So if it feels too much, you can lift up your chest a little bit, not lean as far down. And then make a few motions with your breath, and perhaps you lean in. Perhaps. It's not a have to. Okay. So waist. Okay, let this waist lengthen up. Your arm is reaching, okay? But you might reach the what is it, this thenar web space between the thumb and the index finger. Thenar. Okay. You're trying to stretch that area on the side downwards into the hip, because we're going to do pigeon on this hip, left hip. I want you to feel like you can lengthen the side band. Okay. Of course, you don't have to do all these poses. You can pick and choose the ones you want. Okay, now relax your grip with the right hand. Come up. Try to get this waist to still lift. Okay, I'm still trying to get up. All right, now take the belt off your right foot. Thanks for trying some of it. Okay, block in front of you flat, right foot on top. I can put my block farther forward. I can place it closer to the groins. It's up to you, okay? But situate yourself, situate your sitting bones. Get familiar with the sand on the left thigh, and take a moment when you're simply spinally lifting into the heart, so its spine reaches, right? The spine is right behind the heart. I think so. And shrug the shoulders and roll them back. Just relax your eyes. Take a few rolling motions, shrugging and rolling the shoulders. Nothing too much on the hip. I don't want you to tip forward. Just find the lines of in the spine, right? The different energetic lifts in the spine. Okay, feel the heart is central to it. Okay, now you're going to take the sand off the left thigh. Thank goodness, huh? Scoot the left foot across the mat so it's to the right, closer to the right edge of your mat. And you're going to bring the right leg back. Watch out for belts behind you. Okay, bring the right leg back and taking pigeon with the left knee out to that left side, and then lower down onto the elbows. Now here's the action, right? I have my elbows down, center, and I'm feeling now a little bit more ease in my spine when I'm smoothing out the back, the natural curve. And you might try a little bit of movement with the spine here, a little bit of flexing and arching. You can even feel that when you just breathe in it. You could just close your eyes. You can put your block under your forehead. Kind of have to push it in a little bit and breathe. And you'll feel the ribs move out and feel the natural arch of the spine. Now feeling if the shoulders are tightening up. So here I'm going to work on the chest, gently moving forward. Of course, the left hip is getting all the work here. Push into the palms, lift up, strengthen that core body. So this is interesting if my hands are far forward, right? That movement of the breath into the obliques. Patience. It's only temporary. Okay, now we're going to relieve the left leg of its job here. So all that squeezing and marinating. And now we're going to kind of free up in the groin on the left side. It's good stuff. If we give it time, walk the hands back towards the leg, shift into the left hip, and then gently move the right leg forward and just swap it. So left leg goes out, stretch it out, then the right knee a little deeper so that that foot, I don't think it actually needs to deepen, does it? You just connect the right foot to that left leg, and then either you put nothing or a ball under your left knee, sand on the right thigh. See, this action already happens, right? When I move my sand over, I think just the more you do this, right, you're going to generate movements kind of spontaneously without, posing. Okay, so bring the belt under your left foot so it's in a loop, and then move it behind you. If you need anything under the right knee, just get something. Get a block. Maybe you don't need to shove it all the way under the bent leg. It might just be right on the edge. It's kind of interesting though where it's going to touch to on the connectors of the knee and the fibula. So then I try to actually relax my seat a bit. And so I try to find the seat centered and then hold the belt with the right hand behind you. So the belt is under that left foot in a loop, right? Connecting to my left foot to the side of my left leg. I reach for it with the right hand. And then I give myself lots of slack. I guess I could do more. I could bring my hand closer, sure. But I'm trying to get range of motion. So what happens for me is if I bend the elbow, we can all share what happens to us on this, but when I bend the elbow, then I tend to roll my shoulder in on the right side. So if I move my arm back and left hand to right knee, right, it's helpful. So it feels like it's definitely a work in progress here, or process maybe. I'm certainly processing this one. So perhaps you have to tilt your head. One side you might be more cranky than the other with realizing, oh, I need to move my neck, or it's interesting. So feel that little bit of tension that you're creating, spiraling through your center body, right? Abdominally, posteriorly here in the back abdominal area. This is interesting, posterior core. So work on that interior lift with the heart, and then the twist to the right. I know there's always further to go. So with completing the breath, so let go with actually don't let go with the belt yet. Bring the left hand away from the right knee and reach the left hand to the belt. Then take your time, bend the left elbow down to the left leg, and then the right arm can either go up and over to the left or behind you. Let the top of the hand rest on your back. Okay, and feel what muscles respond. So for me, I felt a very specific kind of release in my knee area once I leaned into the left, but that's partially because I got a ball under it. It's like a little protective balancer for my knee tissues. It's nice. And you can still lean into it, right? You can still lean into that left leg. That's what causes the resistance for the bones, right? Tipping, leaning, breathing. Okay. So for those of us with the arm reaching over to the left, over the side of our face, feel if you can let the ribs turn towards the right. You can certainly turn and look down to the left leg. Okay. But feel when that right arm now for all of us is behind us. See if you can breathe in to bring the brains up, okay? And then I sometimes, for some reason on the left leg, I like to use the belt more than the right side on this one. I don't know why that is, but I'm going to place a block in front of me so it's at the lowest setting. It could be here, could be here. You choose. And I'll bring that left foot up onto the block. Yeah, I like to use my belt on this side to pull myself over. And it's not even my cranky knee or anything. Something about it. Okay, so take a belt. Now you get your belt. Reach forward, just forward. And feel the expansiveness of the ribs with your breath. Okay, so feel that you can, well, clearly when you breathe in, there's pressure, right? It's the yang part of the breath. But both parts are essential, right? So feel when the belt lowers. Maybe close your eyes. Okay. All right, now we'll place the belt off to the side. And we're going to take a moment where we reach the hands back onto the blankets. The shoulders are back, lifting the chest. Breathing. Okay, so slide the block out from under the right knee if you have it, then the sand. And, you know, of course, this kind of position, you can work on twists on this. You know, just knowing you can sit on your bolster, put a block in front of you and work on some nice twists for the core. So I like to just remind you of that. Okay, left leg stretches back, hands down. So feel how the tilt goes. Like I tilt, my waist goes straight down so it's prone. I hope it is. And then I'm just going to try to cushion my back knee so it's comfortable resting. And then feeling that natural arch through the spine. If you're pre-sleeping pigeon, it's a better way to work with the spine strength versus to kind of drop down and then try to get back up. Once you're down, it's harder to get up. So feel where the hands spread out and then make your way down to the elbows and maybe feel, does my hips lift? Do they scoop? What's going on with the pelvis and the tailbone? So just see what naturally you can work your way towards without making too many attempts at telling yourself to do things here. Just use gravity to help you tip forward. Forearms press down gently. Spine in motion. Right? Just that movement of breath is hydrating, right? It brings that circulation between the vertebrae. That's all you got to do. You can let your head tip a little forward if you like. Probably this is a little smarter just to have my natural length in the neck, but yeah, sometimes block up and forehead down is not so bad on the neck. Now really soak that circulation in the inner right leg, in the adductors. Okay, now weight into the right hip. Moving any props, especially blocks, over to the side yard of your mat. You're going to need both of them up, coming up. So I'm going to lean my weight into my right side flesh of my seat. So I don't want my knee to be pushing up to the right side. I'm going to actually guide it a little forward, not straight forward, but a little bit to my right elbow. And then bring the left leg front. And then when you come around to the bolster now on it, I want you to push back, walk the feet forward, slide back onto your blankies, and then push your bolster forward. Push yourself off the blankets and keep pushing the bolster, and then push it next to the wall. That feels kind of good. Hopefully your wall's nearby. I like that sequencing. Okay, so taking your extra blankie off to the side. Maybe you'll use it for your legs up Shavasana. And we're gonna walk ourselves, our hands are gonna help us go forward to the wall. And you're gonna lower onto your back. Yeah, this really is a floor class, isn't it? You're gonna bring your feet up to the wall and get as close as you want. Okay, likely if you're, don't get too worried about the knee pressure. We're not going to alienate the knees coming up. This can look a little bit concerning, I think. But when I lift up my feet, which is all I've got going right now, the tailbone, it's like it exaggerates the, I don't know, the dimensions of the tailbone here. I can kind of feel the pelvis backing, and I can definitely feel the movement when I move into tail motioning under pre-bridge pose, and then when the tail presses back. So that light movement in my lower belly. So push firm into the wall. Make sure your head is on one blanket folded or less. So not a good one to have two blankets or a high folded blanket. Less is better. Some padding is fine, but not too much. Push into your feet and lift your hips up. See how you climb up on the shoulders? Now, some of us will be slip and sliding on this one. Depends on what you're wearing, I think. But you're going to push into your feet and keep that pressure working its way through the femur, right? The side connection into the lower leg bones. And then lower the spine down. Okay, now bring your feet to your bolster. You might have to scoot back depending on how it feels on your knees. Okay, I don't want you to feel like the side of the knee, this collateral area ligament is not going to feel, well, some of us, it feels like we have pressure there regardless of what we do. So when you lift up, I want you to pretty much press into your heel bones when you lift up the hips. So I've got my focus on my heel bone to lift my hips up and lower the spine down. Okay, inhale, arms overhead. It's an interesting breath path on this one. Exhale, spine down. Okay, again, inhale, arms overhead, reaching. Yeah, let it climb up the shoulders. We don't do anything that gets this climbing in the shoulder blades, like shoulder stand work. So come back one more time, arms reach overhead. If you don't want to get your hips to lift and lower and you're tired, you can always do just the arm work too. That's fine. Okay, next time you lift up, I want you to take the ball. If you don't have a ball, you'll windshield wiper the knees. Place it under the left box. You do have to push up a little bit. The ball is going to be under the, well, your rear is not going to be a huge massive space. And the ball is going to be under, right? And you're going to massage into the glutes with the ball under you and the hips moving side to side. Okay, so as you go side to side, like you're wagging your tail, feel the weight also in your upper back. And so you don't want to put all of it into the ball, but just the right amount to massage. So if you need to put a little more into it and roll a little bit to that left outer hip, that's great. You can certainly do that. If you don't have a ball, what are you going to do? You're going to bring the feet on the bolster and windshield wiper the knees side to side. And also you can bring them into the chest and circle. Okay, so there's perfect option. Okay, now we're going to bring the ball, move it over, roll it over to the right buttock, and continue on with that back and forth, side to side pattern, and feeling if the spine, you know, there's quite a bit of strength in the spine by now after all this practice. It's probably very content, not achy. So just creating that circulation and movement is so good for us. Okay, now when you get a feel of the movement of the ball under you, make sure the ball moves too. It's not like it's just you squishing the ball, but you're getting the ball to move. Okay, now this feels so good. I don't want to stop this massage on my glutes, but we're going to go across the glute frame. So lower down, move the ball, keep it, actually just keep it. And you'll take your bolster and you're going to push it over to the right side of your mat and bring the left leg over on top of it and the ball under to the sacrum. This might be a time that you fold the blanket one more time. So you have a quarter fold and you push it in under and you add sand to the side of your left thigh. If you feel like this is enough, I don't need sand, that's okay. So you can stay without the sand or add the sand carefully. But try to use your biceps in the right way, not straining high on the arm. Right? So feel the left arm, feel it relax. So the palm is relaxed, the elbow is reaching just a little bit downwards. It's interesting to feel the contour of the shoulder. So if I feel my elbow kind of slide down, it can nicely open, it can just open this area in an interesting way that moves into the ribs. I know it's all connected, but I have to say something about it. Okay, resting into the side. The crossover. Feel the ribs move with your breath. Slide the sand away. Bring the ball over to the side, and then when you switch sides, be clear with the movement of the feet and the back of the pelvis centered, slow motions, and then likely the arms will be what help you get the bolster to the other side. If you need more padding under your head, you decide. But again, maybe you can work with the movement of the neck on this one, so it's going to be able to turn. It's kind of interesting to feel it centered, put the ball to the sacrum or to the gluteal connection, the gluteal fold. Fold the sand across. So then maybe you get all your base work done first when the right leg is on the bolster. If you need to add a blanket on the bolster or a block under the knee, that's fine. Sometimes you need something underneath your leg besides the bolster. Okay? So right arm is open, and then with that movement of the arm, that can help the chest and then up into the neck. And then that persuasive motion of breathing wide. Feel a little bit of twist here in the abdominals. And let yourself breathe expansively with the twist so that you're actually strengthening your diaphragm. With the resistance, the diaphragm strengthens in a twist. Now feeling where the chest is open, the shoulder on that right side. The front helps the back, right? Feeling that rotation. So feel all the ribs moving, right? The movement, inspiration in the ribs. And then move the ball aside and the sand down to the wall area. So I just kind of guide it there carefully, push it down. And then head rolls to the left and you roll to the left and you come up and come up halfway really. So you just need to put your bolster against the wall. Pull your blanket in with you next to your hips. And that's close enough. You want to have enough, not too much space, not too much of a gap. I mean, I'm short, so maybe I need no gap here. Okay, you'll figure out the gap. Lean in, you gotta sit, basically feel like you're sitting on the wall. Sitting bones are at the wall. My left sitting bone I know is closer to my bolster, but I'm actually trying to sit to the wall to get in this one. I'm trying to get upside down. So you might even have a mentality of, I'm actually trying to get upside down here. So roll to the left and or the right. If you're going to come up with the other hip, that's great. So if you always get up on this side upside down, maybe it's a good idea to get to the other side. But I'm going to get my bolster under my pelvis again, but now I'm closer to a wall than I was, with legs in the middle of the room. Guide the blanket so it's a nice comfort under your brain, that natural curve of the neck. If you feel like this throat area, it's too tight here, you might work a bit with rolling the blanket under right at the neck. Just a little itty bitty roll. You gotta have a complete roll though, because you don't want it halfway on the neck to help elongate in the throat and the endocrine glands. That could be really nice. It can be really odd too. Feels kind of awkward, but it's taught often. Not that that means it's the end all, huh? And maybe you have to reset that again, but you'll try it and maybe you won't. Sand on the feet. If you've got that other blanket somewhere nearby, if you've got an eye pillow, put it across the eyes once they're closed. If you have just your eyelids for your pillows, let them close. Actually, maybe it's not that they close, but they open. Okay. But feel where the guidance is on basically accepting the distance you are from the wall. As long as your legs are upside down and your knees feel comfortable. Okay, the heels might have to separate a little bit. The feet are in that perfect supported position. You decide on the blanket. If you had that roll and you think, this feels like too much additional information, you can go without. Arms are down below the level of your heart. And there's a bit of swaddling here, right? You've got the feet with sand. Some of us might have the blanket on the belly and then an eye pillow. So it's kind of like the body has some places that are held and supported. So feeling that reaction on the in-breath and train the body to a state of some inner relaxation and balance. Sometimes the only control you might have is the breath. If you do, right? So if you can feel that alternating power, slowing it down. This is a really powerful pose for the heart relaxation, really nurturing for our heart health, for the lymphatic, but even for calming the mind. So the exhale lengthens when the legs are upside down. even by 1 to 2 seconds, just a little bit. And then tune into the lower belly. Feel if there's any movement there. Maybe it's challenged by having a bolster under the pelvis. But feel if there's some insight into actually on the exhale, feeling it draw towards the floor of the body, which is the back. Now shift the feet away from the wall. Just a couple inches is plenty. Or you could go several more. It feels like it's more impact into the hips sometimes. The feet are a little bit away from the wall. Kind of nice that verticality. Right, most of the day it's your brain that's at the top, right? So it's good to put the brain on the other side. It can use some relaxation. Okay, now crease the knees. No, I didn't say grease the knees, but crease the knees. Sounds like it, huh? And then you can either toss the sand overhead, you could carefully move it and drop it, and then feel the back of the knees. Yeah, sometimes I like to reach my hand so my thumb is at the back, my hands clutch around. I just kind of feel the tibia movement, the fibula. It's interesting just to feel these areas before you step on them or bend your knees and sit on them. I just kind of feel them swing a little bit back and forth. So you're clutching the leg. Then you stay bending. And then just let the feet flex, circle, stretch through the bottoms of them. Just take this extra moment. I still hold on to my tibia with my fingers. Something I'm kind of working on right now, just helping out my knees. Yeah, just feel all the stuff that's below them and to the side of them. And then as you rest the pelvis, really feel like you can keep the back of your pelvis open as you roll to a side. Let your ribs turn into a cannonball shape here and then push to come up. Yeah, and come up to sit with your bolster because that's what you got, right? You got your bolster in you. So sitting cross-legged and feel how you center back into your brain, closing your eyes. Feel the heart gently lifting. And then feeling a moment connecting in this virtual community, feeling support from all of us to each other. Bring your hands up to balance in front of your heart. Feel the palms lightly touching, maybe just the finger pads touch. And then feeling what is essential for you to breathe into, setting an intention. And then on the exhalation, bowing into the space behind your heart. In gratitude, namaste.